you. Any of us can sign our papers at the end of the meeting. All right, on to consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion on the items on the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we have approved consent agenda. All right, moving on to recognitions. Joe?
Congratulations to the boys golf, sixth in the state, so first time in a long time since we were conference champs and won the state, so congratulations to them.
Thank you, guys. Very nice to see. All right, on to bills. Jill?
Thank you. This evening I have $3,077,131 worth of bills presented for approval for payment. The items I'd like to highlight include a payment to Logo Pro for $3,670. That was for the district staff awards from the awards ceremony that we had right when school started. A payment to the FFA for $4,400 for chapter dues and fees. This is the first year that expenditure will be paid for with Perkins money. And a payment to Kimberly Car City for 2 new Chrysler Pacificas. Just picked them up today for $73,740.
And those are for what?
For just our small fleet, for teams, for anybody going to conferences and things like that. Make a motion to approve the bills as presented.
Second.
All right, so motion seconded. Any further discussion on the bills? All right, all those in favor of approving the bills, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Bills are approved. All right, on to our report tonight from the high school. Thank you, gentlemen, for hosting tonight, and gentle ladies.
Me too. I'll go ahead and start us off if that's all right. Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Murray. I'm our teacher leader coordinator. Part of my role is that I work closely with our secondary administrators, instructional coaches, and teacher leaders for professional development. You can go ahead with one slide if that's all right. So the last several times you've seen me, I've talked about this guaranteed and viable curriculum idea. And while we're continuing to do all of that, today we're going to focus a little bit on how we go about working together in teacher teams to create our guaranteed, which means every student gets it, and viable, meaning it's possible to learn it in a year curriculum. And we do that through our professional learning communities, or our PLC process. Our PLC process is not anything new. Several of you have heard us talk about it previously. The process follows 3 big ideas. The first big idea is that we have a focus on learning. That means that in the schools here, we know our foundational purpose is to make sure that we're established and focusing on learning, and as such, we're going to continue to refine and examine our practices. The second big idea is that we work in a collaborative culture. Our teachers are all working in teams as opposed to as isolation in order to have a results orientation, which means that they're constantly looking at and reflecting on their data so that they can continually improve their teaching methods. So the way that we have been doing this over the past 10 years is that we've really been refining our process, and we've been able to do this because we have 5 prerequisite conditions that we've been focusing in on. Like we've said before, we work in teams instead of isolation. When we do that, we're doing our guaranteed and viable curriculum. That means unit by unit, our teachers are establishing these things and continuing to refine and improve. We do this, and then we do ongoing assessment, which means that as we're teaching our students, we're constantly developing and using formative assessments that we take and we look at a granular level in order to provide some data-informed instruction. We use those results to change our instruction in class so that if our students get it, we move on to something new. If our students do not, we go back and we reteach. And then with that, we've continued to create a system for intervention and also enrichment. So I'm going to talk to you today also about just the 3 specific steps this year our high school is taking to continue to improve in this process. The first is a new agenda. And this new agenda, all of our secondary school teachers actually are using this. This is an improved agenda to help with facilitation during these meetings, to help keep our teachers focused and help our monitoring of our 4 PLC questions. Our questions are, what do we want our students to learn? That's our first column here in the blue. The question 2 is about how will we know when our students have mastered it? How will they know if they've learned it? Those are the questions in the second column there. That includes teaching, giving the assessments, and then analyzing that data. And the last two are, what do we do when teachers or students know it? What do we do if they don't know it? Those are the last two columns. And this has really helped our teachers kind of focus in on, am I getting to all 4 of these questions as we're talking? And it also helps to kind of monitor their pacing as they go through that as well. So this is a brand new agenda that we've implemented this year, and we're continuing to get feedback and revise on. Our teachers have been doing this, but also, sorry, there's a link in case you need to see closer, but it's pretty big. Also, we have all of our coaches, instructional coaches, supporting PLCs throughout the district. We were able to send them to a conference just a couple weeks ago about how to continue to coach our teachers and collaborative teams so that we can continue to get improved results. And the third thing is actually what Mr. Lane's going to talk to you about, a revised system of intervention and enrichment, or WIN time.
So kind of to piggyback off that, PLCs aren't new. Schools have been doing them for the better half of a decade or more. And that whole process ties into the MTSS structure. That's the guaranteed tier 1. When we meet in those PLCs, they talk about their shared lessons and their shared units and go over all those things. That guarantees that they all get that tier 1. It's what schools do once they identify issues and how they move into tier 2 or 3, depending on academics or behavior. And that kind of came from MTSS's kind of a 2015 incentive that was attached to Every Student Succeeds Act. So I'm very blessed that we have a very good instructional team at the high school and district-wide. Almost every district now has instructional leaders and instructional coaches, and every district claims a PLC, but we actually do a really good job. We have our teacher leads and us in our PLC meetings and make sure that they're held accountable, and we really go through the 4 questions and do a good job of that. So we made the change this year from P6 for a couple of reasons. What I wanted to first touch base on this slide is you'll see the MAC conference schools and then Dubuque. I put Dubuque up there because they were a school district that was they have a little bit of weird hours, 7:30 to 2:20 there, but they were one of the shorter instructional times. So basically what you're looking at there is the high schools and their bell schedule, and then their total time in the building, and took a half an hour out for lunch. So if we look at that, I see a lot of things in that low 7 hours, and then a high 6s, obviously if you take that 30 minutes out, and then that is what other people do for MTSS that I could find easy. I probably could have given Mark Bloom a call and see what DeWitt does. I think he said they were very similar to Muscatines. It's not every day, it's like a 2 or 3 days a week type thing, and then I couldn't find Pleasant Valleys. But they're getting that 20 to 43 minutes range of, we call it WIN time, what I need, where they're going to that intervention. So why did we make that change? Change is difficult, but the main reason probably, along with data from ISAS, is we had 76 and 77% kids proficient, which is a great number. It's above the state average. State average is in the mid-60s for ELA and math, but that means there are 23% and 24% kids that were not proficient yet. So we need to make sure all kids get that level 1, which they get in classes, but also the level 2 and level 3 support. So our current bell schedule, and the reason there's 4 numbers there and not just 2 is if kids have a period 1, and I would say almost all our freshmen, if not all of them, have a period 1, and then it's probably about a third of the sophomores through seniors. So we're looking at about 60-65% of kids have period 1. So with our current schedule, if they have a period 1 and they go at the end of the day, we're in school for 7.5 hours, instructional 7. Okay? If they don't have a first period, they're 6:45 and 6:15, and that's with our 30-minute MTSS. Last year, when it was with period 6, if a kid didn't have period 1 and they did not have a period 6, they weren't assigned to a WIN time, they were in school for 6 hours and 15 minutes. And if they had a 30-minute lunch, which they did, they'd be an hour in school for 5:45. And remember from the last slide, the lowest one there was Dubuque at like, what was it? 6:15. So essentially, we wanted kids to be in school longer to get that instructional time. And then paired with the district moving to Friday early outs, the 2-hour early outs, that's an additional 2 hours of lost instruction. I have had some feedback, informal, from elementary principals that say teachers are really struggling with that 2 hour. Elementary teachers are struggling with that 2 hours they lost and trying, their lessons are getting tight and getting crammed together. So that was kind of the why to it. Change was hard. Our teachers have done a good job adapting to it. I think our logistics system of how kids get selected and what to do with overflow has been some challenges, but we're working through that. We have a great ILT team, great VLT team, and we're coming up with really good ideas to make it better and make it smoother.
So one of our main goals with moving this, along with what Andrew said, is we really wanted to look at how are we impacting kids, right? How many kids are we reaching with this intervention period? So there's a lot of numbers up here. Basically, the first column is during our P6 at the end of the year for the entire school year last year. The equivalent time, the next two columns are through basically last week of the last 2 years. So really, there's a lot of information here, but the two that I think are the most telling are probably the attendance rate. Granted, a 90% attendance for our intervention this year, that's still almost chronically absent, so that's not stellar. We're still working on that. But if you look at the amount of students that are attending more compared to past years with how we have this set up, we've made it part of our culture that the expectation is that you're attending this intervention time and you're getting that support or that enrichment that you need. And then the other thing is, because we've made it much more concrete, is even through just 27 periods this year, we're already over what the average student was getting in gained instructional time compared to the entirety of last year. So that second to last row, I think, is really impactful, is that a kid could go all of last year and have significantly less additional instructional time than what they've had now. And that's with our teachers using data to select those students. That isn't just a random grouping of, well, I'm gonna grab these 12 kids because I happen to have them. We're looking at formative assessment data, like Michelle talked about, or we're looking at maybe these kids missed an assessment or they're lacking some prerequisite skills. So our teachers are going through and making these assignments with the data that they have. So obviously we've talked about some really big things and some things that we want to see impacted by the end of this year, especially when we're talking about ISAF scores. But I think our early returns of getting our students in front of our high quality educators was the easiest thing we'd be able to go measure, and I think the early returns on that are super positive, as you can see here. So there's a lot of information there if you have more questions about all of the charts. It was kind of, as I kept diving into that, believe it or not, I kind of started to nerd out on some of the data and thought I'd at least throw it out there and let you guys decide what you wanted to look at. So I would be more than happy to answer questions about this at the end.
An important asterisk to add there, that's without study hall, right?
Yeah, so that's just kids that are assigned to an academic teacher for an academic intervention or enrichment for that.
Dan, what is this 150 versus 530?
Sorry, say which one?
So the 150 minutes per student versus the 537.
Right, so,
Can you describe that a little?
yeah, so if you look at the number of students that were assigned and how many intervention periods, so basically through that time frame, so that middle column there, the average student would have had 5 interventions assigned to them for 30 minutes apiece, 150. Through basically the same window, we've already taken that times 5 for, I guess, to get you to a higher number of instructional minutes for each student.
And the teachers assign them?
Yep.
And that's how?
Yep.
And then they have a certain amount of period that they are assigned to it, and then they can opt out?
So it's on a 3-week rotating cycle. So then we have 2 weeks that are locked in, so you're guaranteed the same teacher for 2 weeks, and then our 3rd week is a flex week, which is much more similar to how we've had it in the past, where maybe you missed an assessment or you were sick for a day, or I just need you for.
So you just drop it?
Yep, exactly. So it's a more responsive with that. We tried to kind of balance that, because that was one positive we had, is it was super responsive in the moment, and so we didn't want to completely abandon that, and this was kind of our compromise.
So you have 915 students for last year, but that was when P6 was optional, right?
So throughout the entire year, 915 unique students were assigned at some point throughout the year.
Okay, but now through the periods, there's 983 students.
Yep.
So everybody's required to go.
So we've got some, you're right, and so we have some students, and this takes into account everybody. So we've got student-built home students that are on campus potentially, Edison Academy who are on campus, and then we do have some students that haven't been assigned to an academic intervention. They might have been placed in a study hall. I think I know for freshmen, we haven't had any freshmen that haven't been assigned to an academic intervention, but there could be a junior or senior that potentially hasn't been assigned to a classroom teacher yet.
And so the attendance rate is how many of those 9:15 showed up that were actually assigned, or what is that saying?
So that's not just the 9:15. So the attendance rate is for every single assigned period. 77% of our kids attended a period they were assigned individually.
It was at the end of the day then?
Yes.
Yep.
So 77% attended when they weren't required.
No, when they were assigned. So if you got an email today, you're assigned to this teacher today, there was a roughly 3 in 4 chance that you would go.
Okay. And now 90% of the kids go.
By moving it to, so we
But everybody
increased.
sits there, right? Either you're in study hall or you get you're assigned to a teacher,
Yep.
right? Either you're doing an assignment because you got assigned
Yep.
to something, or you're in a study hall. I mean, or you don't have any work to, right? I mean, but you're sitting in the same physical location, whether, like.
So if you're assigned to a teacher, you go to that teacher, and then we've got a freshman study hall in one of our larger classrooms, and then a sophomore, junior, senior study hall in the library.
Okay, and if you're assigned, you get assigned by 3 weeks,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So what happens if you're in week 1 and I'm assigned to somebody that teaches chemistry and I have an English question? Or I have an English problem, I need to help on that. Can I go to an English teacher then? Or do I have to wait till the next week?
So if the teachers coordinate it, we've allowed that level of flexibility. What we don't want to have happen is the student dictating where they want to go. But if a student says, hey, I've got an English assessment, it's going to take me 5 minutes to go talk to this teacher, and they want to talk adult to adult and coordinate that amongst teachers, we have allowed that.
So if the students advocate for themselves.
Yep. Yep, as long as the teachers are the ones coordinating it.
If they don't show up, is there a consequence?
Yep.
Oh.
We follow our attendance policy with detentions and that.
So I have to be somewhere, P6 right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where do you go?
Some positive, I had staff bring some positive teachers of what they said, so I'll let you kind of read through theirs, but basically they got the kids the extra help they needed. They're showing the results in their summatives and their common formative assessments. I'll just let that up there for 60 seconds. We can go to the next slide. Oh, that wasn't 60 seconds. I guess I'll highlight my favorite one as I was an art teacher. So we were kind of low priority, which some of our CTE teachers experienced. So I maybe had 20 kids I'd like to see, but other teachers need to see those kids too. So I would be kind of the last to pick. Man, hey, these are the 5 I got. Great. What do I do to help out the logistics of kids need to be in a seat for that? I said, hey, send me whoever, and I'll make them make it a study hall, or if they have something productive. But I essentially was trying to target my AP kids that I had AP art, and they didn't have any other academic things, so we had kind of an AP enrichment. I had my art kids that were struggling, and then I had actually kind of a third pocket of, hey, I'll take as many as possible. We got 20 kids roaming, get them in here, and I'll get them working on something. So I think the cool thing there with Mr. Bilski did that one. He had 4 or 5 of his junior student built 2 help with some of the freshmen that were struggling in intro. That was one of my highlights for staff positives. And then I sat in, on the next slide, we'll say 2, or that's right there. I went into 6 or 7 and popped in and just like looked at a couple others on last Wednesday and kind of got student voice. I know there's some students that, hey, I like the flexibility of period 6. I could get ready for sports. I could get ready for my job or whatever it was. I only needed to be there 1 day for a makeup. So I can see the frustrations and some of the cons that this brings. But I was in Mrs. Holting's class, and there were probably 15 freshmen, and I recognized 12 of them. And so I'm not very good at getting to know every kid yet, but only 2 or 3 are probably on good notes. So 9 or 10 of them were our fun students, our challenging students, and she had an awesome lesson. They were engaged. They had a group conversation and discussion about biosphere, atmosphere, and kids that I never thought would be academic after watching them in the hallways all day, every day, were really academic in that setting. So it was really cool to see that those kids that were probably struggling with their academics were doing a good job, and getting that help they needed in their science class. And then there's a couple other examples up there. Pops didn't do it in English class. They were doing vocab words, which I only knew about 5 of the 20. And they were getting prepared for their next unit, and they were doing a fun visual and then group discussions, and then they had to share out to the class. So they were doing that level 2 intervention to get ready for the next unit with their vocab. So some cool things going on. You know, you guys might hear some of the negatives. We hear some of the negatives and the logistical issues, but I think it's going really well after the first couple weeks of challenges. And then last but not least, this is my reminder to get into the plays if you can. First one is Halloween, which I'll be at. So that'll be a fun night. And then this weekend as well, Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the team?
Good job, you guys. I just want to know, how do parents learn about all this?
How what?
How do the parents learn all this?
I sent out some the stuff in the newsletter. I sent out an email to the parents so they have the whole process and the why. I think the important thing was, I think our teachers know the why. I think our kids are getting to know the why. I didn't communicate very well right off the beginning to know the why, but then I sent it out to start before our third cycle. So.
Okay, thanks.
Did you have good follow through with the closing down the lunch again? I know you opened it.
Yeah, I saw about 15 kids and gave them their warning. My goal is that it was pretty lax, was not communicated very well. Now, hey, this is our expectation, school safety for one. I like to think most of our student body will make good choices when they leave, but some don't, and that's kind of on the schools. They're under our watch from 7:30 to 3:15 if they go do something they shouldn't, and it's because we had an open campus. That's on me, right? I don't like that. So as they get to be juniors and seniors, I hope that they get that responsibility. The real world's close, but I think that was the number one thing. And, we're catching a few kids coming in and say, hey, it's closed campus. The next one will be 30-minute detention or an hour detention. I think it was hour detention, so time and a half for you to go. And you want to go eat McDonald's, maybe you're going to serve an hour detention time thing.
So it is closed campus.
Yeah. And there's some exceptions to that. So if a senior is done for the day, they don't have period 4 or 5, we're not going to make them go to lunch type thing here. They'd be important. They had a period where we had one kid had an EICC welding class and was done with that class at like 9:45, and he didn't have a period 4, so we're not going to make him come back. So we said if he had a study hall, he didn't have to go to his win, and then he would be, in theory, open campus, really long open campus lunch because he had free lunch. Does that make sense? So there are some exceptions.
So it seems like there's plenty of seating for the kids at lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that was-
The one day we had a complaint because kids were sitting, I was like, they chose to sit. But then I went and counted, there were 83 openings in that same lunch the next, like it was a B late lunch day. And there were openings, they were just choosing to, or there were a couple kids that there was 8 friends or 10 friends and there were only 8 seats at the table, so they stood like 5 of them to hang out. So yes, there's plenty of seats.
Have you done any surveying of the staff of how it's going?
I will, end of the quarter, and then I'll get something out to students too, just to see where it's at. Yep. I value feedback
So
from
I'm sure we only hear negative.
all
Mine
stakeholders.
has been
Yeah.
all negative. I've
Yeah.
not heard any. It's good to see the positives, because I've not heard any.
Yeah.
Until tonight?
I mean, I've heard everything, the clubs and kids don't know their schedule from one day to next. Some kids kind of need that, routine and to
Yep.
know what's consistency. Some people learn differently, some whatever. So
Yeah.
those are the clubs.
I think that's probably
lessons.
been the biggest takeaway is that, and I'll own that, is not communicating all of those little things that maybe in my mind weren't the immediate reason and the immediate need. So that we've tried to do a much better job of communicating that on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis even too. So yeah, I'll own that was, if I were to do it all over again, that's one piece I think we would definitely go back and really tailor out, is that communication to both parents and parents and guardians, for sure.
That's new, you just adjust, right?
Yeah.
So,
Nice job.
Thank you very much.
So there is no Friday show?
Correct.
no.
The Friday show,
The
the Friday show
calendar.
happens
Yeah,
on
it's
the
in the
football
field.
field. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know, but the calendar shows
Right,
that
they always put
there is a
on
fall
Oh.
play Friday night, so
Oh.
we need to get the calendar fixed.
I will
Yeah.
look at that.
What they did?
That's all I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
I
That-
Okay.
shows on the calendar.
The show is on, like I said, the Lancer Field.
I just figured we're gonna have a hard time parking on Friday.
Yeah, we'll get that updated.
So yeah, I get that taken off.
For sure.
All right, thank you very much, everybody, for presenting that. Moving on to, we have a diversity committee update, and that's you, Joe.
Yeah, it was, the report's in there, but basically the work was we need more members, and more members are gonna be active, and so I did schedule a meeting today. We got a number of people said yes, they want to be on the committee, and so we'll have a meeting next week, and try to get people caught up, get the committee reformed next week, and then get more meetings scheduled.
Thank you, Joe. All right, we have no old business tonight, on to new business. First item up is we have policy committee recommendations for the first reading, so no action for us.
Yeah, no action, just a quick update from me. So 501.9, which is being rescinded, and 501.10, 501.10R1, and 501.3, those are all, 501.10, 501.10R1 are new because they're the new attendance laws. And then 501.3 was also had some language change for the new laws. And then 502.1 is just added, it's the responsibility for the superintendent principals for dress code. The next one was 502.4, and that is, again, attendance areas was added to it, so it goes back to that law. Let's see, the next one is 603.1, basic instruction, and the number of units you have to have now in fine arts and foreign language were taken from fine arts from 3 to 2, foreign language from 4 to 2. That's state law. We offer more than that, but small schools really struggling getting those instructors. They just put what you absolutely had to have. And then the last one, 700 series, just to add and to make sure financial services part of the 700 series side language is added. Yeah, these are just first readings. You have all month, take a look at them, and then we'll have more policies coming as first readings here in the future.
I want to talk about the attendance. I had some families reach out, and just kind of with how you.
Yeah, so I sent out a video. So the attendance laws, attendance obviously is big in not only Iowa, but the nation, because when you had COVID hit and you were telling people to stay home, many schools, there were a lot of kids who just didn't go to school for a year or two, and again, if you were sick, stay home. We kind of changed our attitudes about attendance in school, partly because of the crisis that was going on. And now that we've been over and over for a few years, we haven't seen attendance go back down to what we were having prior to COVID, the number of kids missing school. And so there's been a bigger focus on it. And so the laws were changed to give more emphasis. One of it is to get DAs, district attorneys, saying you gotta start doing more to get kids to go to school. If they've chosen to go to public school and you're 16 and under, you have to go. And so the state has talked about habitual truants at 20%, which is a lot of days, right? It'd be hard to hold a job down missing 20% of the time. Then we have the 90% rule for attendance, which is part of the federal law, so it gets to be a little bit confusing. In the end, we're doing the same stuff we were always doing. Our principals are always working with families for kids who miss. We also understand there are families that might get a letter because their kid, you've heard me tell this story. My niece didn't miss any days when she went to school here or anything other than non-school events. She was involved in so much, she got an attendance letter. But literally it was for all schools. So sometimes the system generates letters that you shouldn't generate, you can catch. If students going through cancer, right, they're gonna miss a lot. Or if they have special help where they miss all the time. Those families, that is when it's targeting. A student.
Parents should still call in if their children are sick.
Yep.
Bring a note from the
Yep,
orthodontist.
if you don't want it to, yes, always bring a note in now. And so that's probably the big thing is now, is if you don't want it counting towards your 10%, 20%, we need to see the notes. Or if our nurse sends somebody home, that would count, and that's generally most families. People who miss a lot, who just call in, oh, I'm not feeling good, I couldn't get them up to come to school. Those are the families we always were targeting. And so it really isn't that big of a change, it just has been now regulated more from the state. And so we'll have more generated letters. It's gonna change because the state put in there, after how many absences do we have to send the certified letter?
essentially 9
9.
days.
9 days, we have to set up, in a grading period, so in a semester.
And it's a $10.
It's $10 per certified letter. Our elected officials did not realize that to follow that law, you're gonna get a lot of generated letters that aren't even appropriate. And there's families now who don't, well, their home's moving up, they don't get mail. And there's just better ways to communicate, we should be able to do it. So they're gonna relook at that, they already know, we've talked to our elected officials, and they know that. But in the end, we need kids here. Remember, prior to COVID, we were part of the United Way, strive for less than 5. That's 5 days a year. You should try not to miss more than 5 days a year. We do want families, schedule vacations when we have breaks. Schedule doctor's appointments on either breaks or when we don't have students in session before after school, Friday early hours, avoid missing time. Because in the end, if you wanna be successful, attendance is a key component of success in school. Like, we all know it's a key component of success in work. You gotta be there.
Thank you for going over that.
Yeah, and so, I know a lot of families, we've had a few families reach out who have very specific situations, like, this is not targeting you. We know your son or your daughter has this, and you're gonna miss a lot of school, So, but that is a much more formal process because state law.
But if you have an appointment, doctor's appointment, that's during school hours, because that's when you can get it,
Yep.
you're gonna get an excused absence.
No, if you have the doctor's note, it doesn't count against you. That's an excused absence. Medical is excused.
Unless you just call in.
If you just called in and
Johnny's
said, hey,
got a fever.
my son's got the flu today, we're gonna excuse it, but it's gonna count towards your percentages.
Goes on.
But if you brought a doctor's note, I went to the doctor, the doctor said for him to stay home, they had a flu, that does not count against you at all. Doctor's notes don't count against you.
Okay, so you need the note, otherwise it's an excuse, unexcused, right?
It's a,
Kind
it's
of.
Semi.
Yeah.
semi-excused. There's two different counts that you're
Or if
going
a student
after.
shows up,
Yeah.
sees the nurse with fever and or is vomiting, that is the same as a.
Yeah, if our nurse sends a kid home, that's the same as a doctor. No.
I mean,
Yep.
usually, when we've gone in the past, we have named Johnson ortho notes, because it's just like, yep, they have
Yeah.
ortho, and there's no.
Now the state
Get it
wants
now,
us to.
yeah.
Now they want us tracking that information. So,
When we say doctor, we mean mental health providers,
any
dentists, everybody.
medical.
They're all
medical
out.
person, yeah. You could have chiropractor appointment, you could have
Yeah, I
ortho,
think
you could
people
have
get nervous
dentist.
when they hear the
Strings
term
your slip.
unexcused absence.
Yeah.
And really, it's excused, it just goes toward, if they're ill,
Mhm.
it just goes.
And it
towards
is,
that.
and if you look at the data in Iowa, it's tracking back down towards what it was pre-COVID. So it was already falling even before they implemented this law, but think about it, we encourage people for 2 to 3 years to stay home. In Iowa, we also believe in parental rights, and we push them hard, parent choice. Well, now we don't like the choice they're making. So, guess what, we got Grace law saying, no, you don't get the choice, you can just let your kids stay home.
We made an
And so-
effort to remind parents, thinking about, calling into the nurse that, what those categories are. Like, I don't know that I've heard that stated that, this is when you can stay home, just because this, and then, during COVID, you should
Yeah.
stay home, but remind them, hey, we're back to this level.
Now it's 24 hours after
Right.
having a fever and symptoms, you can
I
go
didn't know
back.
if we
Yeah.
reminded people, like,
If you have a cold, you should be going to school, going to work, right? It isn't, but remember, 2 years ago, you even had a cold, you wanted you to stay home.
Right.
Just go back to that pre-COVID expectations, and so. It's just gonna it's taken longer in not only the United States, but Iowa, to get people to go back to no, you can tough it out and go to school. So, that's it.
Thank you,
Yep.
yes.
No, you're welcome, I appreciate you asking.
Any other policy questions for Joe? All right, moving on to the strategic plan.
Yeah, I've included in there, we worked on it this summer, I'd like to run it by you. If you looked at it, it's down to just the 1 year, assuming we're gonna go through a full plan, that's why you're not seeing year 2. And probably the most important document is you see how we lined up the work for that strategic plan. And so it's really just to get that approval for this year, just so the board is really making the board and the public aware, here's where we're at this year, and here's the work we're doing. The big work we have to do from the leadership is getting us through a process for that. And I did reach out to another company, Education Elements. Their range is 60,000 to 130,000. And so I wasn't quite sure we really wanted to interview them. They're out of California, but most of the companies are further away than Iowa, and obviously we had the one company who, 34,000 is not little, but when you start talking to.
Sounds different now.
It sounds a little different now, and it's 60 minimum. More than likely, they pay $130,000 range is typically what they do. So we just have to make a decision on that here in the next, maybe the next board meeting.
Sure. But for tonight, you're just.
But tonight, just sharing with you the strategic plan update, and I would ask, did I just put for sharing?
No, it says, board approval.
Board approval, yeah, it's just really re-upping it. Again, it was the work we did this summer.
You want us to, I move to approve the, strategic plan.
Second. Been motion and seconded. Any further discussion on this? The only thing I will say is that we will be pushing, now that Joe's got us the sticker shock of the other group, we'll probably be having more discussion, figuring out what we wanted to do from this group. And if any other questions pop up, please feel free to reach out to Joe and I. Figure out what our path forward is on this too, so.
Regardless of who we go with, there is a more of a community input component than we did last time,
Yes.
so.
We will be putting together focus groups, both of parents, community members, and then staff, different groups. And so, and I've been, part of my meetings too, I've been asking staff, what is it, those kind of topics you think that we should make sure focus groups have a conversation about? And we just getting feedback from our staff too.
All right, any additional discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of approving the strategic plan for 24-25 school year, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Now on to our, let's see, be sarcastic, our favorite part of
The list is getting smaller.
It is, it's much shorter.
Much shorter.
It's shorter.
So the first two change orders for the metal lab, the first one is we had older doors that we were keeping and we wanted them painted, so that was the increased cost. And the other one was actually a credit because we really didn't need the conduit, so those two are pretty easy.
Motion to approve change order 1 for River Valley.
Second.
Okay, so motion second, any discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor of approving change order 1 to River Valley, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Now to change order 3.
Yeah, so the Lancer Stadium, the first one.
We gotta do
Oh, I'm
the-
sorry, I got in a hurry.
Yeah, we did. It's a very deliberate process, Joe.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve change order 3 to the metals lab.
Second.
All right, so motion second, any discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor of approving change order 3 for the metals lab, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Now on to Lancer Stadium.
All right, thank you. Two on Lancer Stadium. The first one was the unforeseen conditions. You can see the asphalt, and we had to do more cutting in there. And then the second one is we've added more gates. So if you've been to the last football game, you notice we added another gate so that Booster Club could easily get food coming from the other concession stand by bringing the gator, but they also realized moving the cooking on the other side of that gate not only is it safer for the kids, but gives them more, they get good crowds. They needed more space to serve even with the multiple windows, and so that worked out really well. But that's what that one was for.
Make a motion to approve change order 3 to Lancer Stadium. KD Flatboard.
So motion seconded, any discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor of approving change order 3 to Lancer Stadium, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Change order 4.
Motion to approve change order 4 for Sheets to Langdon.
Second.
Yes, so motion seconded, any discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor of approving change order 4 to Lancer Stadium, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Now to wrestling.
And the wrestling one was just, we had to add two, I think it was 2 smoke detectors because the fire marshals walk through. So when they do their final walkthrough, keep buying, so I know these 2 rooms need more smoke detectors.
But these, it'll be okay and ready to go?
What's that?
Will the wrestling room be ready to go?
It is.
These things?
Yeah, we're all ready with that, so we're good.
Make a motion to accept change orders 7 to wrestling practice facility to Valley Construction.
Second.
So motion and seconded, any further discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor of approving change order 7 to the wrestling practice facility, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we are approved. now on to the SBRC application. That is Jill, right?
Yeah, yep. So this time of year, I usually bring to you a couple SBR applications. I'll have one tonight, obviously, and then one in November. So by application to the board, we can ask for additional spending authority for some things that the committee deems we need to go ahead and pay for. This one tonight is for the English Learners program and those students. It costs the program more than the weighting that we get. So this evening I'm asking for board approval to submit the request to the SBRC for $77,178.55. So it's the cost of the teacher less the weighting that we get to fund the program.
Make a motion to accept the school budget review.
Okay, the motion is seconded. Any discussion on this one?
This is something we've done, and it's pretty typical every year.
Yep.
Okay.
Could you ask for more money than this? Probably not.
It's set in code.
I know, okay.
Thank you.
All right, all those, any additional discussion, sorry? All right, all those in favor of approving the SBRC application, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion passes. Now on to superintendent's report.
Yeah, just a reminder, American Education Week, November 18th through the 22nd. Vision 2025 update, we obviously had a long work session beforehand. We're coming to the tail end of all of our projects, still a few bumps in the roads, but after the first of the year, we should be done, except for those little things that you have to wrap up on, but we should be using our facilities, so that's nice to have. Student count, we were down to 26.11 students that live within the district, but 6.4 of those was open enrolled out, so we actually have less kids open enrolling out than we had last year, and so really we were down, just around 20 students, but we're up 23.9 students open enrolled in, so it's almost a net zero there. The 4K was down 11.4. That funding, 4K has kind of its own little bucket. And we're up 20 students on ESSA. Now, as I look through the number, the ESSA is the savings accounts going to private schools, which every year we would assume would go up. Last year was 21, now it's 41. Next year it's going to jump again because now all kids in private next year qualify. But again, looking through the names quickly, I didn't see any of us losing families because of it. They were just families already there that always went there and they're getting the money. So we actually gained $1,200 as of now per kid, so 41 times 1,200. If you didn't lose any, then that's a gain for that. The strategic plan I told you about, staff meetings, a couple of the big things I'm doing with our staff meetings, I've had 2 and I have 1 each of the days this week except Friday, is talking about this year's calendar, because I know snow days and making up snow days and getting feedback, what we would do. Now, anything we do different, we would need to do a calendar meeting in order to do that, a public meeting for it. But just seeing what we're looking at. This year's a little different because we end on a Wednesday. It's easy to do a snow makeup on a Thursday or Friday. So when you go into that next week, that really becomes more difficult. But it also leads into next year's calendar because we can't start till the 25th. And we get out, even doing our traditional calendar gets us out the Thursday, June 4th, meaning you don't have, not a lot of flexibility unless you start doing things down traditionally and looking at what their ideas are. Or do we start building in snow days, like Martin Luther King's Day is a holiday, but it's only a holiday for mid-managers and for administrators. And it's in there as an asterisk that says, but if it's a snow day, then that becomes a summer holiday. So we could easily put it in the calendar, Martin Luther King's Day would become a makeup day. If we'd have to have a snow day prior to that, maybe a week prior, if you had to need a little bit of time to notify parents, then that could be, you do all that. So there are a number of ideas. And if we're gonna have a 5-day week, I know kindergarten and the 2 elementaries does that, talk about, we should think about starting kindergarten and 5K on half days. And instead of going a full 5-day week, which they would like to do half days anyway, to take half the kids, start teaching them the routines, the other half, and do that, and then do a full day. So just different ideas that our staff have on, and look at next year's calendar. Because next year and then the following year is also, we start on the 24th, unless the law changes. you know, it just becomes a little bit tighter than when you could start like the Monday after the state fair or the Tuesday after the state fair. That give you a lot of flexibility in what you do. And so we've had those discussions, good discussions with the staff on that. I was gonna talk about the fall play, but I'm glad he brought it up because I thought it was Friday too. But football playoffs are Friday. We are hosting at home. The church property, still, I put in my weekly update, we're working with Townsend's, or with,
Collinwood.
yeah, and Diamond Builders both on trying to get a design that can go through the city. And so hopefully I'll know more. Then we have to sit and talk about what does that partnership look like and what would it cost us to develop it. This is probably a $750,000 development cost by the time you put in sewer, roads and everything, detention pond and everything to do that. And so we want to be able to do it where the lots cost us a lot less than us buying our own lot. It's going to cost us just as much or more, and you might as well let land sit there until it's cheaper to develop it, just keep buying lots.
And we can use some of our money in on.
It's all through the home builders.
Okay.
It would go through one way or another, it goes through the home builders over time, yes, yeah. And they did break ground out in Donahue, and so, on the new development out there, so that's a possibility of, we built in Donahue several times in that area, so that may be a possibility. That's been a very sellable market, and the past lots have been cheaper, it's been cheaper for us to build out there than here in Eldridge and Long Grove too. So hopefully we'll know more as time goes by, but the goal is in November to go to the city to at least start the process. So by the first of the year, we may have an idea and have the next 5 to 6 years worth of lot, or 5 to 6 years worth of lots available. We may still go out and buy a lot, but at least we know we're not every year wondering, well, what lot are we gonna buy, what's it gonna cost? We will have that plan out for a while.
And you said you were working with 2 parties, so what is
Yeah, and I was trying to think of the engineer for.
Townsend Engineering?
Yes, thank you.
Chris Townsend?
Yes, Chris. Townsend, right?
Yeah,
I
Townsend.
did say it right. I was
Yeah, you
thinking
did.
about the housing development Townsend. I said, is that the same one? But yes, that's it. Yeah.
Any questions for Joe? All right, moving on to, thank you, Joe, for the report. Moving on to board comments, correspondence. We've got the School Board Association convention coming up at less than a month from now. Wow, where did October go? So,
And I think we have everybody signed up for at least one day. So, thank you. Nice to get everybody there.
And I just want to say thanks for having the facilities meeting earlier today.
Yeah.
That was really, really helpful.
Very helpful. Looking forward to our night school. Volleyball playoffs tonight.
and if I get lost, I'll just call Frank. He's gonna be in charge of the rest.
Oh, and just one thing before practice, I asked a couple of you about a legislator,
Oh, yeah.
prior to the board meeting,
Yep.
after the election, of course, but just some, get the legislators in and talk to them.
Do you meet with the other superintendents anytime here between now, and I should say after the election?
Yeah, we have the legislators coming into the AA in December. What I'll do is, as soon as the election's over, we'll figure out who got elected, who represents our district, and just see if we can get them. What I would do is recommend, kind of like we do a work session, is do a time other than a board meeting time. Maybe right before a board meeting. I've had a couple in already, like Chris Noyer's tours the district already with me, and so I've had contact with them already, ones that aren't running in now. So, but yeah, that's a good idea. It'd be nice to get some kind of idea, hopefully not soon after the election, what are going to be the issues too.
Yes, yes. Okay, thanks.
Appreciate that, Joe. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Frank?
I think we all got an email from the music department that they had All-State this weekend. We had 4 band members chosen All-State, 14 choir with 2 alternates, which I know will recognize them next board meeting. I had the opportunity to go to curriculum cabinet, and I was impressed with what they were going through. All the administrators and coaches were dissecting the data from 23, 24, and looking at Michelle because I sat next to her. I know there were 4 quadrants. I only remember the one that says questions, because it was basically, it's just like anything else. They got a lot of data, and my question is, okay, now what? You've got kids that are meeting or exceeding, they're middle ground, they're below, so what are we gonna do? And then I even asked, can we compare third grade of this year to second grade of last year to see, are they still achieving? Because I sat next to Carrie Lane also, and I think it was their second grade level was sky high on the ISAP. And their first grade level was lower than that. And I said, well, I wonder how they responded to the first grade. Are they still high achievers? Is that just a high achieving grade level? So I had a lot of questions. I think there were a heck of a lot more questions than anything else, but I enjoyed the dialogue between the administrators and the coaches. We also had AEA staff there. I'm just going to say they were staff. I don't know if they're coaches or whatever, but they basically brought the changes from the state in literacy and math and talked to everybody about what that means, which I won't say what Michelle told me, so I'll just leave that one on.
Geez,
But
Frank, wait,
it was good. I mean, it was good to hear from them. The other thing I've got is I've got the second chapter of our book study, and our second chapter is how to find common ground. And I think that, you know, we have open and clear dialogue, that everybody's perspective is honored, and everybody should have their voice listened to. I know from time to time we will maybe not agree with everything, but I think we can listen to people and find out their perspective on certain things. I think we all became school board members to bring a positive difference in our lives, the teachers and the students, in our community. And I think we need to hold all board members accountable, that we are all informed as to what's going on. One key to working together well is to understand what each wants individually and affirming those desires. That's the chapter in introduction. So I think it's that was an easy read. So
It's like 4 pages.
That's fine, okay. There you go. But I think it's a good book, and I'm looking forward to the convention. They've got some great speakers, so hopefully you'll take advantage of that, and we'll see everybody on there for sure.
Thank you, Frank. Anything else? Right, I'll entertain one more motion.
Move to adjourn. Second.
It's motion second, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Again, students, any of us can sign your papers for you.
So bring them on up.
I do that too.